Well, at the end of planting season, I kind of have to get things organized again. And what I'm doing now is kind of sorting all of my plastics out because we reuse all that stuff and getting like stuff together. And then I have these 2 basins that I'll use, one with soapy water, one with plain water. And I'll wash everything. And the reason we wash, try to get the dirt out, is sometimes you could have some fungus or some disease of some sort in the soils. And so it's better to start out with all clean stuff. But as you can see, I do kind of have a mess in here. I have all these stacked up. I have a bunch of seeds waiting for whatever. So it's time to clean the greenhouse and set it to sleep for the summer. Because it's too hot in here in Idaho in the summer to use the greenhouse. I would have to have a significant filtration, or it's not filtration,
air conditioning.
Airflow and air conditioning and some protection from the sun in order to do that. And this is a small greenhouse. It's just not really worth that for us.
We do use it for one thing in the summer, and that's when we need to dehydrate plants, not freeze dry, but dehydrate. We'll often put them in here because they do a good job of naturally dehydrating.
We can either lay them out or we can hang them from this bar.
Yep.
And so we'll be doing probably some lavender and whatever we find that we want to dry and save. I also will be digging up a few bulbs and laying these in here. I've got some places where the bulbs are getting kind of thick, and I have a friend who wants some, so I'll be getting some of those prepared for her to take home and plant. Other than that, as you can see, we got lots of stuff in here and lots of work to do. I kind of have to work here just in the mornings. Another thing that I would like to comment on is that you don't see everything we do because we just we don't film everything that we do. But we've done a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of planting. I had some sunflowers that came up volunteer out front. I put those in the dry bed. So there's just a lot of things that have been going on. The garden and the yard, let's just take a quick pan of it, is doing really super. So if you take a pan around, you can see we've got lots of, it rained last night, so my sedum here is kind of closed up, but you can see that we're starting to get lots of blooms. The pond is looking better. Pretty soon we'll be able to take the netting off. Go back here, this area. The peonies are blooming now, which is one of my favorite times. Well, I'm back here in the berry patch, as you can see, and we are starting to get some blooms on the raspberries. These are my goldens here. So they're looking pretty healthy. And then, as you can see, I've got kind of a mess here. This is where we're going to do the pole beans again this year. We did here a couple years ago. And I'm going to use, we have some old frames left over from a structure we had up at the cabin in Cascade that we took down. And so I'm going to use this as my structure for the pole beans. The other thing we have to do is, if you remember last year, we had cherry tomatoes in this area. So if you look down here, these are all cherry tomato volunteer plants. So we'll have to bring the hoe in here and get rid of those too. So I hear some action back here. Let's go see what Al's doing. It looks like to me he's picking up pine cones.
Yeah, this is having very large pine trees in the area leaves us with pine cones. And we're going to, in a moment, cut to a section that we recorded earlier when we fertilized the lawn. And we knew that the rainstorm was coming, so we wanted to fertilize before the rainstorm. Well, the rainstorm ended up lasting several days, and besides doing a great job of fertilizing the lawn and watering everything, it also blew down a heck of a lot of pine cones out of the pine tree. So that's what I'm working on right now. But while I'm doing that, let's take a look at fertilizing the yard here a few days ago. What we've got here is our bi-monthly application of fertilizer to the yard. And as you can see, it's formula 2033, and we get it from our local garden store, Zamzow's. At least it's known pretty well here in this part of the world. And I've already placed it in the spreader. And this is a spreader that I bought, 20 years ago, and it was made to be pushed. Well, as time has gone by, I found it a lot easier to pull it behind the tractor, so I added a wooden tongue. And one of the things is this handle has to be pulled up to allow the spreader to do its job, and I can't do that from the tractor, so I just tied it together with this string. So let's scatter this fertilizer, and of course I'm not going to have you watch me run all around the yard. We'll make a run around the yard and get some other things for you. We'll splice this particular footage in with our regular Gretchen's Garden greenhouse that we'll be filming here in a few days. That sure is a lot easier than pushing that darn thing, I'll tell you.
So every year I plant marigolds around my tomatoes to keep the bugs off, and it does seem to help. They don't like the smell of marigolds, nor does Al. So we'll come over here, and as you can see, I've got several of them planted already. But I like to look for a spot where the water is coming out and make sure I can get some water to them. So I'll dig a hole right here. Our drip system is pretty focused in areas, so you kind of have to plant the garden and plan so that the things you plant get water. These are looking pretty good. So we'll just put that baby down in there, and then I'll water those all later.
Well, in fact, with the rain that we've been getting, there's a very good chance it's going to get watered naturally.
Well, but you got to put water, remember, to make those little roots.
That's true.
Attached to the soil. In fact, when my dad used to put water in the hole, put the plant in, and then put more water in, but I find that that's probably not quite necessary. So we've got one more over here, and we'll give it some attention too. I'm going to have to work around. I planted some beans, so I kind of got to work around the beans, or not beans.
Those are peas that you've got
in
planted.
here, yeah.
Well, the hot weather will get here and they'll be done, so they won't be taking up space in the raised bed for very long.
No, they won't. So we'll put one more down in there. Okay. Well, this is where we had cherry tomatoes last year. And there were quite a few left on the ground, and as you can see, we've got a little work to do. We've got about 6 feet of this to pull up, so we'll keep working on it and keep them up, because this is where we'll be planting the beans. So we talked about this, I think, before. So today Al and I worked on this is quite a contraption.
Bunch of leftover stuff from camping and everything under the sun.
Some of this is from our gazebo in Cascade. When it kind of died, we had to get a new one. And so I just thought it would make a really decent place for them to climb up. When we had them by the fence last time, we had them close and they went up and over. So we've moved them out a little bit. We can get behind it and pick. And we've got this pretty stable, so we'll see how our new contraption works. Over here, we've got a guide wire coming from our berries, and I keep running into it. So I put a tomato frame here so I wouldn't walk through there. Well, if I've got a tomato frame, I have an extra Sweet 100 tomato that I raised in the greenhouse.
So we're going to be planting next year's tomatoes all over the ground here again.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. Oh, that's all right. What the heck? We'll pull them up.
Well, you can take a hoe to them if nothing else. So we'll have, I just wasn't quite happy with the amount of little tomatoes I had, because the grandkids really like them to take them in their lunches and stuff. So we have to raise good food for the grandkids.
And now over here, there's a project for me. I will leave some of these to grow up.
Yeah, you need to leave a couple.
I will do that.
And we'll just tie, when they get up to here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in the meantime, like here's a clip. And we'll save this one. Let it get started growing up there. But some of these others are going to be...
Yeah, let's save about 2. We can clip another one. For some reason, my stuff died, and I don't know. I think maybe they had started to bud out, and it got a cold day.
Yeah.
So we can clip everything out, and then let's take this one here.
This guy?
Yeah, and we'll clip him up to here.
There's a clip right there for you. You can clip it to this dead one for the short term.
Well, I got the camera. I can't clip anything.
Oh, I'll do it. Yeah, gotcha.
There we go. Now we can just...
And I'll trim these out, berry bushes.
These are boysenberries.
Yeah, boysenberries. And what I do is I cut them up so that they just turn them into ground cover, compost eventually. You can't even see what was these last year. They've already composted, but that's what I do with them. But anyway...
Not all of them died, as you can see. We've got these coming up. I don't know if they're healthy enough to produce anything, but over here I've got some that have got blossoms on them. And same thing happened to that row over there. And this row over here, my blackberries. So I think we must have had a late frost that hit them. So we're not going to have a lot of, this plant did okay. So we're not going to have a lot of blackberries.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks so much for joining us. See you next time.
Bye.